I got eyes all over me up here.
I'm in position. I am in position.
Hold tight. Hold tight.
20 shots tore into the rear of a car, killing Alex Shirley and critically injuring his friend Sophie Haggie. Shirley was the son of reality TV personality Ronnie Shirley from the show Lizard Lick Towing.
Between 2011 and 2014, a towing company in a tiny unincorporated community in North Carolina became one of the most watched shows on truTV. It drew millions of viewers who couldn't get enough of the chaos, the confrontations, and the deeply entertaining personalities running the whole operation.
Got to use you to do repos and crazy days running my office.
But you know what, Ronnie? We still got each other, and I'm still here to back you up in all your disaster.
Lizard Lick Towing ended over a decade ago, and the cast scattered in directions nobody predicted. Some built new lives, some faced genuine tragedy, and some never left the world they started in. What led to the end of Lizard Lick? Where are the stars, and what are they doing now? Join us as we reveal where every one of the stars landed. The couple who built everything. Before there was a camera crew following the couples through North Carolina back roads, and before millions of households knew what Lizard Lick even was, there was just Ronnie Shirley, one truck, and a decision he made in 1998 that the towing and recovery business was where he was going to put everything he had. Ronnie Shirley started Lizard Lick Towing and Recovery with a single truck in 1998, operating out of Lizard Lick, North Carolina, which sits in an unincorporated area near the Raleigh suburb of Wendell. Over the next 10 years, with Amy by his side, the company grew to 15 staff members and a fleet of 20 trucks, which is the kind of growth that shows both smart business management and genuine community trust in what the company was providing. The television show did not create the business. It found a business that was already running successfully and put a camera on it. The network first sent a cameraman down for a single day of shooting in August 2008, which was supposed to be a scouting trip rather than a commitment. What they discovered when they got there changed everything about how seriously they took the possibility of turning this operation into a full series. The truTV executive in charge of show development was quoted as describing the Shirleys as dynamic and entertaining characters and said the network really fell in love with what they found in Lizard Lick. The detail that apparently sealed the deal was discovering that Amy Shirley was not just the co-owner of a towing company. She was simultaneously a professional powerlifter with 2 junior world records to her name and a licensed mortician. That combination of facts about one person told the network everything they needed to know about the kind of television this place could produce. The show began as a segment within the existing truTV program, All Worked Up, in 2009 and 2010, before graduating to its own dedicated series that premiered on February 7, 2011. The format was built around the daily reality of running a repossession and recovery operation. Ronnie locating and recovering vehicles and equipment from people who had stopped making payments. Amy managing the furious owners who came demanding their property back. And the whole crew navigating the physical and emotional chaos that erupts when you show up to take something somebody cannot afford to lose. Ronnie is an ordained minister, a detail that adds a layer to the show that most repo-based television formats never come close to. He prepares a large barbecue meal every year for some of the people whose property Lizard Lick has repossessed, people who fell on hard times and could not keep up with payments, which is not something that fits neatly into the tough, confrontational image the show's promotional material emphasized. It reflects a man who understood that the people on the other side of a repossession notice were not characters in a drama, but real human beings in genuinely difficult circumstances. After the show ended in August 2014, following 4 seasons, neither Ronnie nor Amy walked away from the business. Ronnie has continued as the director of Lizard Lick Towing and Recovery, overseeing the company's daily operations from their base near Wendell. Amy remains as vice president, still managing the business alongside her husband and still carrying the same energy she brought to every episode of the show. The company has maintained an active social media presence, with its TikTok account building an audience of more than 1 million followers, which is a significant number for a small-town towing company that has not been on network television in more than a decade. But the decade since the show ended has not been all business milestones and social media growth for the Shirley family. February 2022 brought a loss that no television career or business success can prepare a family for. And the way Ronnie and Amy have carried that grief publicly says more about who they actually are than any episode of the show ever could. The tragedy that changed everything for the Shirleys. On February 17, 2022, Ron Shirley's son, Harley Alexander Shirley, who was 21 years old, was shot and unalived outside a home in Garner, North Carolina. He had been attending a memorial balloon release that evening. A 20-year-old woman named Sophie Hagee was also shot in the incident and was paralyzed as a result, with a GoFundMe campaign subsequently raising more than $80,000 to help with her care. Authorities in Johnston County arrested a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old and charged them with murder and attempted murder in connection with the shooting. Cassidy Lorene Hunter, who was 21, was arrested and charged with accessory after the fact. Diana Sarah Jackson, who was 38, was charged with obstructing justice during the investigation. Nathan Christopher Jackson was brought before the court and ultimately found guilty on multiple charges. The jury convicted him of first-degree murder and attempted murder, as well as several firearm-related offenses, including firing into an occupied vehicle and causing serious injury. In December 2024, the court handed down consecutive sentences, the most severe being life in prison with the possibility of parole. Because he was just 16 at the time of the crimes, North Carolina law set a specific condition on that sentence. He must serve at least 40 years before he can even be considered for parole. In effect, it means spending decades behind bars before any chance of release is on the table. Following the verdict, Johnston County District Attorney Jason Waller addressed the case, calling the violence senseless and making it clear that acts like this would not be accepted in the community. It was a firm statement, one often heard in cases of this magnitude, but one that reflected the gravity of what had happened. Also present in the courtroom was Ron Shirley. After the sentencing, he spoke to reporters outside, offering a perspective that stood in sharp contrast to the outcome inside. Rather than focus on anger, he spoke about forgiveness. He emphasized that forgiveness is not something that comes easily or naturally, but something a person must actively choose and learn over time, no matter how difficult the circumstances. Amy Shirley's own social media posts in the period following Harley's death showed the specific pain of a mother moving through grief while still being a public figure, still running a business, and still holding together a family that needed her to keep going. She and Ronnie have 4 children together: Gabe, Alex, Lexi, and Maggie, and the family has continued to face each day with the same open, unguarded quality that made audiences connect with them so deeply during the show's run. What the Shirleys have shown in the years since the show ended, particularly since Harley's death, is that the people the audience watched on television were never performing versions of themselves. The warmth was real. The faith was real. The community connection was real. And the grief has been real in exactly the same way, carried openly and without pretense by 2 people who never learned how to be any other way than completely themselves. Amy has also built a professional legacy outside of the towing business and outside of television. She published a cookbook titled Gluten-Free in Lizard Lick, 100 gluten-free recipes for finger-licking food for your soul in 2015, which reflected her own family's dietary adjustments and gave her a creative outlet that had nothing to do with repossessing vehicles. The powerlifting records she set during her competitive years remain part of her identity. She held 2 junior world records in the sport, and she also trained in mixed martial arts during the show's run, even competing while cameras were rolling. The Shirley family's story since the cameras left is the story of real people continuing to live real lives, absorbing real grief, and choosing every morning to keep building the thing that they started a long time before truTV ever came looking for them. And while the Shirleys have been the public face of everything connected to Lizard Lick, the man who stood at Ronnie's side through every confrontation on the show has been living through his own serious challenges since the final episode aired. The best friend who almost didn't make it, Bobby Brantley. The origin story of Bobby Brantley's relationship with Lizard Lick Towing is one of the more genuinely entertaining backstories in reality television history, because he did not arrive at the company as a friend, an employee, or a job applicant. He arrived as a dissatisfied customer. Bobby had his truck towed by Ronnie Shirley's company and was not happy about it, which put him in the same position as most people who interact with a repo operation: frustrated, angry, and without a good option for getting his property back. The way that situation was resolved was that Bobby ended up working for Lizard Lick to pay off the debt, which is the kind of story that belongs in a movie rather than in the founding of a decade-long friendship between 2 men from the same corner of North Carolina. By the time the cameras arrived, Bobby was one of Ronnie's most trusted employees and closest friends, and the chemistry between the 2 of them on screen was the kind of thing that cannot be scripted, because it comes from years of actual history between 2 people who have genuinely gotten into trouble together and genuinely gotten each other out of it. Bobby's physical presence in the show, the confrontations, and the moments where situations escalated and he was the one absorbing or deflecting the impact, made him a fan favorite who the audience genuinely worried about, in the way you worry about someone you actually care for. After the show ended, Bobby pursued an acting opportunity in the 2015 film The Lonesome Curse, taking on the role of Bobby Kessler, and demonstrating that the charisma he had shown on reality television could translate into scripted performance. He left the towing company after the show ended and shifted his focus toward family life and new ventures, including fan engagement through live video sessions with his longtime friend and co-star Dave. Bobby and Dave hosted a series of live video chats under the name Bad Dog Nation that gave the audience who had loved the show a way to stay connected with 2 of its most beloved personalities. In 2019, Bobby Brantley was diagnosed with a pituitary adenoma, which is a form of brain tumor that affects the pituitary gland and can have significant impacts on hormonal function, vision, and general health. He underwent surgery to have the tumor removed and then relocated with his family to a property they call Lil Ass Farms in Pilot, North Carolina, to focus on his recovery in the kind of environment that suited both his physical needs and his personal identity as someone who has always been most comfortable outside of cities and urban settings. The diagnosis and surgery were serious, and the recovery required the kind of patience and stillness that his years in the towing business and on television had never demanded of him. Bobby is married to Melanie Brantley, who appeared on the show under the name Cassie Caldwell, with the show portraying their relationship as an on and off situation, navigating numerous interpersonal challenges. In reality, after the cameras stopped rolling, they committed to each other fully and built a family together. They now have 8 children, which is by any measure a full and demanding home life that requires the same energy and coordination as running a repossession crew, just directed toward school schedules and family meals instead of vehicle recoveries. Melanie, whose professional background is in gynecology, has continued her medical career alongside family life, making her one of the more quietly remarkable people connected to the show. A gynecologist who appeared on truTV as a love interest on a towing reality series while maintaining a serious medical practice. Bobby's recovery from the brain tumor surgery has been described as going well, and by the most recent accounts, he has settled into the kind of grounded, family-centered life that his years of high-energy television work were always building toward, without anyone knowing it at the time. If Bobby's post-show story is about facing a serious health challenge with the same stubbornness he brought to every confrontation on screen, the story of the third major personality in the lizard lick world is about a man who never needed the cameras to know who he was, and has been happily proving it ever since they left. Dave, Johnny, and the rest of the crew. Not everyone who made Lizard Lick towing worth watching for 4 seasons was a lead character, and the supporting cast around Ronnie, Amy, and Bobby contributed the specific texture that made the show feel like a real community rather than a 3-person operation happening in front of a backdrop. Dave, who appeared throughout the run of the show as one of the more colorfully lovable personalities in the Lizard Lick orbit, has continued building a life in Rocky Cross, North Carolina, that reflects exactly the interests and personality the audience got to know on screen. His love of music was always present alongside the turmoil and chaos, and since the show ended, he has doubled down on that passion, playing locally, writing his own material, and working on a musical project called the Rocky Cross Project that represents a genuine creative endeavor rather than a television personality trying to find the next platform. He appeared alongside Bobby Brantley at a car show connected to the Missiles for Christ ministry at King's Auto Corner, which reflects the continued community involvement and faith-based connections that run through the world most of the Lizard Lick cast comes from. The event also showed that the friendships formed during the show did not end when production wrapped. Bobby and Dave, in particular, have maintained a genuine connection that has included both the Bad Dog Nation live sessions and in-person appearances together, long after truTV moved on to other programming. Johnny Reynolds, who is Ronnie's cousin and served as a towing and recollection assistant during the show's run, was one of the personalities that audiences remembered for a particular running subplot involving his feelings toward Amy, a crush that was clearly one-sided and never went anywhere, which the show used as a recurring source of gentle comedy. After the show ended, Johnny stepped away from public life completely and has made no effort to maintain a social media presence or stay connected to the audience the show created. He is the clearest example within the cast of someone who was a genuine person in a genuine place, appeared on television because the cameras came to that place, and then simply returned to living his life when the cameras left without feeling any particular pull to extend the television version of himself beyond its natural endpoint. That pattern of the cameras finding real people rather than creating them is the most honest thing you can say about what Lizard Lick towing was and why it connected so strongly with the audience it found. The show had genuine dramatic staging and production shaping around the edges of real situations, as every reality program does, but the people at the center of it were genuinely themselves in ways that most manufactured reality formats cannot achieve, regardless of casting or production budget. The community around the show has also found ways to keep itself alive beyond the cast themselves, with the Lizard Lick Towing Company's own social media accounts continuing to build audiences years after the final episode. The TikTok following of more than 1 million people reflects a viewer appetite that the network format never fully captured, because the platform allows the kind of short, direct, personality-driven content that suits the Shirley family's natural communication style far better than a scripted truTV format ever did. Whether there is a genuine future for new Lizard Lick content, whether the show could come back in some form, and whether the YouTube and TikTok presence eventually evolves into something more structured, are conversations that remain open. Ronnie has indicated interest in keeping the audience connected, and the numbers suggest the audience is genuinely interested in being kept connected. The towing business continues, the family also continues, and the spirit of what made a tiny community in North Carolina briefly the most entertaining place on cable television has not gone anywhere. It is just operating without a network deal for now, and that doesn't take its spark away. Were you a Lizard Lick towing fan during its original run on truTV? And do you think a revival in any format would still connect with the audience that loved it the first time? And out of everyone in the cast, whose life after the show surprised you the most when you found out where they ended up? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.